when two intelligent species are competing for the same resources, well, it's a problem. I don't think AI would directly wipe out humanity.
Do you think by writing books like J.K. Rowling, somebody could become a millionaire in this age now?
I think one of the bigger banks are saying that over 300 to 400 million jobs are going to be lost by the time of 2030.
Hello, dear fellas. Welcome to Side Hustle. As you guys know, that I have this great obsession of talking to emerging writers, and creative writing is my field as well. So, in that context, I have Mr. Robert Kiesling with me. Robert, how are you?
Good. How are you, sir?
I'm doing fine. So, Robert, tell me a bit about yourself. My audience would like to know that who is Robert Kiesling?
So I'm a criminal and family trial lawyer out of Austin, Texas. Yeah, and just have a passion for the future. I got started on this whole craziness because really of the legal profession. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
You started with a you are a criminal, right?
Criminal trial lawyer.
Criminal. Okay, I just heard that wrong.
Criminal.
Okay.
I'm a criminal. I'm a black hat actor.
So this
I saw your face. I'm like, oh wow. Okay.
I just heard that wrong. Okay, sorry for that. But that experience, that professional experience of yours, must have helped you becoming a writer, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely, yeah, for sure.
In what way? In what way? Tell us.
So a lot of times that anytime that you do a trial, it really started with screenwriting, but carried over to being a novelist. But you're telling a story. At the end of the day, you have to do that. And you have to have a central theme, just like when you write a novel, you have to have a central theme. Then you have to have really, you have to walk through and you say, okay, ladies and gentlemen, or Your Honor, the evidence is going to reflect. And you have your statement. And then you go through and say, okay, well, this is what you're going to probably see through the story, but you're not giving the story away. And then you hope that at the end of the day, that what you stated in your theme is what your conclusion is. And just kind of like when you, I don't know if you know, Save the Cat or Save the Cat Strikes Back screenwriting, but you have really your opening image in your beginning, and then you have your, then you have your final scene, and the opening scene and the final scene should be almost the same, but different. So it kind of parallels that when I found that jurors relate more to that kind of vision as opposed to any kind of like chalkboard or going through statistics. Obviously, there's a lot of yawns, not understanding. So,
right. So, do you feel that this fiction? You are a fiction writer, right?
yeah.
The reality and fiction. Do you feel that there is a relationship between them? Do you feel that in the novels or in the screenwriting, people really necessarily have to map whatever they see, all that in real life, or do we always have to work using the exaggeration in all these things?
Definitely, I do not think we have to use exaggeration. No. I think it's art imitates life, or life imitates art, and I really feel like with that premise, that's really just how life works. And like science fiction is now becoming science fact. And I don't know who the writer was, but he's like, I can't write science fiction anymore. I think it was the creator of Black Mirror, because we're living in science fiction. It's now science fact. So I would say that no, it's a close mirror.
Right, very right. So you had this passion to become a writer from for so long, or this is something you just came up with recently? Um, Tell us about your journey about this.
So no, I wanted to be a writer first and a lawyer second, but I have to be a lawyer to keep the lights on. Being a writer, I had written screenwriting and then novel writing. I got picked up by John Goldwyn Productions, the producers of Dexter, for another novel that I don't want to discuss, but it's still relatable about artificial intelligence and the legal system.
Right.
And that's kind of how I started with it. So, but yeah, no, I'd love to be a writer full time, but it's not a reality.
The Dexter, that TV series, not that cartoon series, right?
Right, correct.
Right.
It
Okay.
might be that too. I don't know. I'd have to look into it.
That is all. That is also science
Yeah,
fiction. Yeah?
yeah,
That was probably the first science fiction that we came across in our childhood. Okay, so why this dystopian theme, Robert? Why?
well, it wasn't intentional, but what happened is that as I started to research artificial intelligence,
Hmm.
the rabbit hole just came to an inevitable conclusion. So that I was fascinated with how all these experts were talking about AI in general and narrow. And I don't know if the audience knows what that is. So general AI, you're talking about like Terminator, that where it thinks on its own, operates on its own, does its own thing.
Yeah.
Narrow AI is where it's programmed within an algorithm, and then that specific, I just have it's a blocked off circle algorithm. It can make choices within that circle,
Right.
but it's only within that circle. So the ultimate theme of what my research uncovered was really a dire dystopian future if we don't do the right things now, and it might even be too late now, unfortunately. But we need ethics, we need legislative, we need all that, and we need a global campaign for artificial intelligence. Otherwise, I think we're in for a really rude awakening in the next 2 to 5 years.
Right. So, who you are inspired from in this, Steven Spielberg or anybody else? Because you are the
Honestly,
one who, yeah.
George Orwell, actually.
That's George Orwell. Okay,
Yeah, yeah,
1984. You are
yeah, yeah,
1984, right? Okay, okay,
yeah,
okay, okay,
yeah.
okay, right. George Orwell. So,
Yeah.
what actually inspired you in that novel? Yeah.
Well, just the fact that the not knowing of the human in the society was able and effective at controlling them. And then the history behind his real name's Eric Blair, that he actually worked for, I think, the Administration of Truth, right? I can't remember the name of it, during a war. I think it was, maybe, I can't remember. I know he's involved in the Spanish War, but his wife was actually working there too. And that's where he really got the concept from. And he saw like a lot of the manipulation of the public and propaganda. And so then I thought, well, okay, wow, that's incredible. Then I researched it myself, and I realized I didn't even know what the term propaganda was during that time. And then as I researched more, you got into really what they termed it public relations. And then you got into Sigmund Freud's nephew. I forgot the guy's name, but he's the one that kind of created the modern day public relations. And so went on from there.
I always wonder how did George Orwell came up with all those unorthodox ideas in his novel. He had foreseen all these things almost 100 years back, I think, right? So from here, a conspiracy theory starts that the actual story, the point at which the IT and AI has reached, maybe that is kept from us. We are not told about it. The 100% exact point where we have reached, and they would just tell us only 10 to 20% part of that. Maybe all these things were already achieved. You see, whenever we see in Hollywood movies, we often say that how this is possible, how this is possible. But after 20 to 30 years, we actually see those things getting
Yeah.
manifested, and all those things become reality, right? So maybe what we are being told right now is once again 10 to 20% of the truth. Maybe we have gone too far. What's your thought on this?
Oh, so I think that you're right on point with that. The projections from, I don't know if it was I can't remember, one of the major, who was it, McKinney and Company, and I think one of the bigger banks are saying that over 300 to 400 million jobs are going to be lost by the time of 2030, and
Oh,
that's a projection. Yeah, yeah, and with that and looking at that, then they always talk about, I compare it to like a magician. So you have a lot of the open AI and Sam Altman and and Elon Musk. They're talking about, oh, general AI and how it's gonna become sentient, and we don't know what's gonna go on. Well, I think that's kind of like the magician and his assistant. We're looking at the assistant when he's doing the magic trick, and we think, oh wow. But the reality is what they're really hiding, and I don't know if they're hiding, but they're not addressing, is the job loss, and it's tremendous, and it's going to put a vacuum in society all over the world that we're not prepared for and we're not being told about. And it's a reality. I mean, these projections are from companies that are looking at this for projections for themselves and for society. So what happens with that? How are they going to address it? If you don't address it now, and it's only 5 years from now, and probably it's getting smarter. One of the creators, I can't remember, he was very instrumental in creating AI. He said it's going to be like 1 trillion times smarter. I can't even wrap my head around that in like the next 3 to 4 years. So yeah, it's pretty mind-blowing stuff.
But do you believe that that is true by 2030? All these things will happen, and if that is going to really happen, how are we going to survive with all that?
I have no idea.
Right? Do you
No,
think?
hey, that's why I'm addressing it now. I'm just trying to make people aware of. There's gonna be a lot of people, more people smarter than me that are able to address the situation. I'm just trying to make more people aware of it. So it's a grand public discussion.
Yeah. So here comes a tough one. Did you also use ChatGPT to write your own novel?
You can't. You can use it to edit, and it can give you good ideas, but it's not there yet.
It's not there
And
yet.
I mean, would I? Absolutely, I would use it as an editor. And have I used it? Absolutely. I think the civilian applications of AI is amazing, but
Yeah, it
however,
is.
the weaponization and the militarization of it is the scary part of it. And when you have countries that are competing, I don't blame any of the countries, because it's like, what do we do? Do we just stop developing the AI? No, you can't, because there's another country that is not philosophically the same as you and your people. So it's a catch-22. It's a Pandora's box. We're all along for the ride.
Exactly. Exactly. And when this box is going to happen, I literally have no idea what that world would be. So this war between man and machine, do you feel that someday these machines are going to subjugate man? Uh, Hypothetically, do you feel in 100 or 200 years, maybe? Do you really feel that?
I don't, because of the fact that it can be 1 trillion times smarter. I don't really know. I know that when two intelligent species are competing for the same resources, and what another thing they don't address is that we are consuming all of the AI's resources. And when it becomes sentient enough to understand, well, it's a problem. I don't think AI would directly wipe out humanity. I really don't think that's the case. But I do think if we're competing for the same resources, and if it's us or it, it's probably going to take it. So it'll be interesting to see. But if it becomes 1 trillion times smarter, then it can be smart enough not to use the resources of us or the ant, and it just steps over us, and it just continues on to do whatever it's doing, and we're back to where we are at square one.
Great, great. So this protagonist of yours, is it really you or somebody else?
No, it's based on a number of different, a conglomeration or amalgamation of characters that throughout the industry, and then you also have to add in your character arcs and make it interesting. So it's just a character that I wanted everyone to relate to.
Okay. Here I would like to talk about how do you see writing as a career? Do you think by writing books like J.K. Rowling, somebody could become a millionaire in this age now, or that time is gone?
I think anyone can do anything if they put their mind to it. But my caveat is it's going to be extremely, extremely, extremely difficult. It's an uphill battle.
It's not a career, right? Not a career.
I don't think so. I've done it for 20 years, and I mean, I've been close, and I've been optioned. I've done that, but the amount of money and then the promises of the millions, it's a whole nother level. It's 1%. I mean, I'm already at 1%, and I'm still wanting to make more money and do what I need to do. And I mean by the legal industry and lawyers, because they're 1% of the United States population. So when I say that, I want to put my caveat in my little box there, but yeah. So
right. So you're definitely going to make more money, because I'm going to leave that link in the description. I hope so. I hope so. Even if I could make one sale of yours, I feel the purpose of this podcast is done. Okay.
Yeah.
So tell us about.
Thank you for having me.
And you're always welcome. That's totally my pleasure. Okay, tell us about the process of screenwriting. If somebody wants to become a screenwriter like you or novelist like you,
Sure.
Many people have this desire to become one, but they do not have that much coaching. They don't know how from where to get started. What would be your advice to them? Tell us a complete roadmap of this, please.
Okay, so I would say you need to begin to read a lot of scripts, whatever your genre, whatever you
Mm-hmm.
want to look at. There's plenty of free resources out there. Take a movie. I would read a few that you have seen, and then I would read a few you haven't, and then go watch them. That would be the first thing. Secondly, then you need to go ahead and look at something of a, you have to have structure. If you don't have structure, I don't care if you use that structure at some point later when you're a fantastic writer, great. But Save the Cat Strikes Back or Save the Cat is just an amazing. And again, I'm not paid to promote it. Just kind of silly, but it's just I was blown away by it, and to have that, and then you have to have the passion for it. And you have to stick with it. You have to edit. You have to be able to accept constructive criticism, and then at some point you have to realize when to not listen to that criticism because it's just people with ideas. And for me, I think the biggest advice I could give is when I look at something and I go get people to edit it, I wait for like 7 people, and 5 of those 7 people are going to have the same thing they're saying. And if I have 5 of the 7 people saying this is a critique of your work, then I'm going to work on that. Where if I only have 1 person out of 7 people saying, I didn't like this, then I'm not going to listen to that as much because that's just kind of an anomaly, and it's not, and I'm wasting my time. And I learned that through a lot of travel. So that's probably where I would start.
Right. That is certainly one of the criteria of success is that you earn the appreciation of your honest critics, right?
Yeah.
So whenever you will ask from your good friend of yours, even if they don't like it, they would say that, yeah, it's good. You are doing very well. So one must get a review from somebody who is not directly related to you guys. Okay. So I have come across many fiction writers. They have this different process of creation.
Sure.
Like in our side of the world, I've seen some writers who just come up with an idea. They do not have any exact end within their mind. They do not have the where I am taking my protagonist. What would be the end result? But there are some writers who have this very clear picture within their mind that what would be the end of my novel, right? So, which approach you feel is good? Because once you have started, it becomes pretty difficult where your characters will be leading you.
Your end can always change, but ultimately, I would have to say that you need an ending, and the reason you need an ending is because you're going to have so many different arcs, and you're going to have so many different plot points to guide your audience to the question marks and the answers. You have to know where you're going. At least I do. You don't have to know where you're. And again, I like both approaches because in the beginning, I think you can use that approach and go through all of it because that's just create a process. But as you hone in and you chip away at your statue, so to speak, and making that that beautiful structure, whatever it is, you ultimately have to have those fine points. And I don't think you can do the fine points without knowing where you're going.
Right. Okay. We are heading towards the conclusion of this podcast now. Where in 5 years or 10 years we will be seeing Robert Kiesling, what he will be doing?
Hopefully just full-time writer. I don't know. Maybe collaborating with maybe being connected to AI and using my ideas. It won't need my ideas. Just kidding. I really don't know. I think the future for all of us is just so
unpredictable.
Yeah, especially now. It's always unpredictable, right? But the next 5 years, it's crazy. I don't know.
And what about your professional career? Is that ended or?
No, I'm still full time, but again, with the revolution of artificial intelligence, it's just so drastically changed from advertising to the videos that you can do to, again, but as long as it stays for us as just like that, because I'm not a gigantic firm, but the gigantic firms that have the money are going to have the AI, and the more and more AI that they consume, and the less we're able to use the AI, they're going to have an advantage over everyone else. So the answer to that is no. I think the legal profession is eventually, because of, again, from the structure that we talked about in society, that it's going to be becoming more of, I hate to say it, but more authoritarian and less democratic, which means that it's going to be more streamlined and administrative, giving way to the algorithm and biased algorithms. And so less lawyers, more AI judges.
Right. AI judges sounds very scary. AI judges.
Yeah, it is
Okay.
very scary.
Okay. When we talk about the creative writing, doing novels and stuff like that, that is pretty underpaid. But what about the screenwriting when you do it for TV and for Hollywood? Do they pay a lot to writers?
Well, it depends on the writer, sure. If you're top tier, of course, but if you're bottom tier, no. If you're working on a team that you're not getting any credit for, and then they call it what's called work for hire or work made for hire. Anytime that you see a movie, a lot of times, I can't say anytime, and we'll get sued. A lot of times when you see a movie and you only see 2 screenwriting credits, probably 10 people worked on it. Maybe even 15, 20 people. There's a thing called turnaround. So that movie could have been in turnaround for 10 years, where like Die Hard was, like, for example, like there were like 2 or 3 writers, and the only writer that got the credit wasn't the writer that came up with the majority of it. So it's just like, yeah, it's.
But tell us some figure. We don't need a diplomatic answer. Tell us some figure. You have worked for Dexter. Tell us some figure so that people
Yeah,
get
no.
motivated.
Yeah, the answer is I didn't make a lot of money. It was a pickup deal, and I just made sure that I kept the rights to it, so it wasn't. So if it didn't work out in the pickup deal and I decided to go in a different direction, they usually option it for cheap, and then what happens is if they ever make it into a movie, then you would get a percentage of that once they option that, and then you're only paid out in increments until the movie's in the can, what they call in the can, which means that you might know that it's gonna go enough theaters and all that. So I haven't seen it, but I'm not a top tier writer. So
Okay, but how much top tier writers are making? Let's put it that way.
probably hundreds of thousands.
Hundreds of
Some of them,
thousands.
yeah, some of them make 30 to 50, depending on if they're just rewriting stuff and it's a work made for hire. But the ones that are making like Gladiator and that kind of thing, they're making millions. But again, it's 0.01%.
1%. That's a very long journey. One has to eat shit for a long, long time to become one. That's very, very scary. And provided that writing is extremely time taxing job, extremely tough, right?
Yeah, my hat's off to them. You got to be connected, talented, and lucky to do it all. And for those that have made it, congratulations. Right. I get it, and I'm happy for them, truly.
Right. So, Robert, final question. What would be your advice to the viewers, your fans, who must be following you, and to all the youth? The mic is yours. Any advice, any final nugget of awesomeness from your side?
Sure. My advice would be to find a niche with artificial intelligence and learn as much as you possibly can to be able to work with it or use it in your business in order to evolve into the next level and survive and thrive, as opposed to if you don't use AI or some form of it, you're going to be toast. That'd be my advice, is implement AI.
That's great. That's great. That was extremely a productive discussion. Robert, thank you so much for being with me.
Of course. Thank you for having me.